Hello learners, I am Dr. Subodh Kesharwani working with Indira Gandhi National Open University in School of Management Studies as a Associate Professor Capacity. The topic which I am going to talk today is non-competitive scaling techniques. You know that this is a course which talks about research methodology and statistical analysis, which is part of our MCOM program, and this is a second year course which exclusively talks about the research methodology, the statistical analysis, how research is going to play a very important role when you are going to talk about its methodology, and how the statistical analysis is going to add a feather in a cap. So when we are going to talk about this particular course, I think we have somewhere around 13 to 14 sessions which were talking about the research, talking about the sample, talking about the hypothesis. But this particular session focused on scaling techniques. We this scaling techniques is basically belongs to a chapter 5, a unit 5, under the ambit of measurement and scaling techniques, and which is part of our particular block called research and data collection. So if you go into the backdrop of this particular course, this research methodology and statistical analysis, you will find out that this course is bifurcated into the 5 important heads. It starts with the research and data collection, then processing and preservation of data, then relational and trend analysis, then probability and hypothesis testing, interpretation and reporting. So we are here on the verge of completion of this first block, that is research and data collection. And in this data collection, you will find out there are 5 important chapters which are bridging the gap between each other and how you are going to develop the concept. So first, the chapter talks about the introduction to research, or rather we can say the business research. Then research plan is there, then research problems are there, then collection of data is there, how you're going to collect the data, that is the primary data or secondary data. Then sampling is going to play a very important role. Either it could be the non-random sampling, or it could be the probability sampling or non-probability sampling. Then finally talking about the 4 important chapters, we are here once again on the 5th chapter, which talks about the measurement and scaling techniques. So we have already covered as far as this measurement and scaling technique is concerned, we have covered what exactly the measurement is, what exactly the scaling techniques is. If you go into the backdrop of preceding sessions, you will find out that we have talked about the comparative scaling techniques, which is very important because it talks about how you're going to do the scaling techniques by this comparative scaling techniques. And there are 4 important ingredients which was there. Either it could be Q-sort or the other model is there. So prior to going into the depth of this topic, I just want to throw a light. This scaling technique is more talking about the comparative scales and non-comparative scales. So comparative scales we have already covered in our preceding sessions, and this non-comparative scales is very important because with the help of that you are going to know what the respondents are reciprocating, how the respondents used to reciprocate. So if you see this particular image, you will find out this is bifurcated into the scaling technique is bifurcated into comparative scales and non-comparative scales. If you see or go into the backdrop of comparative scales, you will find out this is a measurement is based on the comparison between the objects, which we have already covered elaborately with 4 important types of comparative scalings. And then non-comparative scaling is talking more about measurement which is based on individual assessment of each of the objects. So comparative scales involve the direct comparison of stimulus objects. Comparative scale data must be interpreted in relative terms and have only ordinal or rank order properties. We have already talked about ordinal, rank, nominal and other models. So where we have seen that how this comparative scale is emphasizing on ordinal or rank order, whereas non-comparative scales, which we are elaborately going to discuss today in this particular session, is an object is scaled independently of the others in the stimulus set. So the result data are generally assumed to be interval or ratio scaled. So we have seen that on the one hand we have ordinal or rank, on the other hand we have interval or ratio. So this non-comparative scale purely believes in interval or ratio scaled. So if you see the scaling techniques, I think the comparative scaling techniques is bifurcated into paired comparison, constant sum, rank order, or Q-sort. We have already have a very elaborative sessions with the help of examples. We have covered that how this paired comparison differs from constant sum, rank order, or Q-sort, and what is the utility of this scaling techniques, and when you are going to apply this, and when the scaling is going to fail, so that you can apply the other model. So this continuous rating scale is a non-comparative scale technique is bifurcated into continuous rating scale. Then itemized rating scale is is again bifurcated into Likert scale, which is a more popular way of as far as the scaling technique is concerned. Either it could be 3-point scale or 5-point scale. More or less, we are emphasizing more on the Likert scale. So semantic differential is there, then Staple is there. So the today's discussion talks about the continuous rating scale, then itemized rating scale. So now if you go more to the backdrop of this non-comparative scaling technique, is a set of scaling methods in which each item is scaled independently of each of the others. That is very true. And there are various types of non-comparative scaling techniques such as graphic rating scale, Likert scale, semantic difference scale, and Staple scale. In addition to the type of scale, researchers must make decisions regarding the number of scale categories, like which is odd or even, whether to use verbal descriptors along with numbered response categories, balanced versus unbalanced scales, and forced or unforced responses. So there, the scaling technique is very important, because with the help of scaling techniques, you are able to, find out that how the respondents are using a non-comparative scale employ whatever rating standard seems appropriate to them. So they do not compare the objects being rated either to another objects or to some specified standard. Now, with the help of this non-comparative techniques, we can able to evaluate only one object at a time, whereas in comparative techniques, we are using two objects at a time. And for this reason, non-comparative scales are often referred to as a monadic scales. So non-comparative techniques consist of continuous and itemized rating scales. That is the reason we have bifurcated into itemized and other model. So if you see this particular image, I think, which is coming on our screen, we have seen that the continuous rating scale and itemized rating scale. If you talk about the continuous rating scale, this is explained with the help of certain things, whereas itemized rating scale is semantic differential, Staple, and Likert. Now there is a chart which is a basic non-comparative scaling chart, which is quite elaborative, and it talks about the certain characteristics with certain examples, with advantages and disadvantages. If you go more into the depth of this continuous rating scale, we know that the basic characteristics is what is place a mark on a continuous line. There are certain examples to that. Reaction to TV commercials. Advantages is easy to construct. Disadvantages, scoring can be cumbersome unless computerized. So because when you're doing a continuous rating scale, I think the data is coming in a big numbers, and the biggest challenge come up how you're going to do the scaling, and how you're going to recapitulate, or how you're going to streamline the data. So because data are coming in a big numbers and continuously coming. So this is the biggest advantage, that scoring can be cumbersome unless computerized, because it's really cumbersome for the humans to interpret the data or collect the data. Itemized rating scale is quite omnipresent in nature, or it is frequently used, and Likert scale is one of the scaling techniques which is frequently used by the researchers. And degree of agreement on 1 is strongly disagree to 5 strongly agree, and scaling. This is the model. We will take some good examples which can defend our the certain terms. Measurement of attitude is example, easy to construct, administer, and understand. More time consuming. This is more time consuming. Semantic differential is 7-point scale with bipolar labels. Brand, product, and company images. Advantage is versatile, and disadvantage are controversy as to whether the data are interval. So Staple scale is unipolar, 10-point scale, -5 to +5 without a neutral point 0. This is where the challenge is there, and we have seen that in QSOT also we have taken 10-point scale, but it was having a 0 as a neutral point. But here there is no neutral point. So measurement of the attitudes and images are considered to be one of the examples. And if you talk about advantages, easy to construct, administer over telephone, confusing and difficult to apply. This is the thing which is going to apply here. And continuous rating scale, in a continuous rating scale is also referred to as a graphic rating scale. Respondents rate the objects by placing a mark at the appropriate position on lines that runs from one extreme to criterion variable to the other. So the form of continuous scale may vary considerably. It varies from situation to situation. For example, the line may be vertical or horizontal, and scale points in the form of numbers or brief description may be provided. So continuous rating scales are easy to construct. It's very easy to construct a continuous scale, and they can also easily be implemented on the internet. So with the help of the technology, with the help of the upcoming statistical packages, you can very easily implement this. The cursor can be moved on the screen in a continuous fashion to select the exact position on the scale that best describe the respondent's evaluation. So end of the day, the intention behind the rating, intention behind the scaling is to know the respondent's evaluation, how you're going to evaluate the respondents. Because when you are when you are in the process of collecting the first-hand information from the through these primary methods, I think respondents evaluation is very important ingredient. And if you are not going to evaluate the respondents, I think you are not going to get the best result out there, because the way data is coming, it's the only option you have how you're going to do that. So moreover, the scale values can be automatically scored by the computer, thus increasing the speed and accuracy of processing the data. So continuous rating scale is a routine matter, is a regular phenomena which can go on and on. So now if you take the example of continuous rating scale, respondents rates the object by placing a mark at the appropriate position on a line that runs from one extreme of the criteria variable to the other. The form of the continuous scale may vary considerably. How would you rate Sears as a department store? Version 1, probably the worst, probably the best. Now you see that probably the worst is what? 0, 10, 20, 30, and probably the best is 100. So worst is 0, best is 100. Now version 3 is very bad, neither good nor bad, very good. So probably the worst is 0 and probably the best is 100. So this is the way of continuous rating scale where you can judge the thing. And now if you talk about the itemized rating scale, the respondents are provided with a scale that has a number of brief description associated with each other. The categories are ordered in terms of scale position, and the respondents are required to select the specified category that best describes the object being rated. So the commonly used itemized rating scales are the Likert, semantic differential, and stepper scales, which we are going to take in through certain examples, which can be self-explanatory in nature and able to give a clear view about what exactly this itemized rating scale types are. So itemized rating scale is a scale having numbers or brief description associated with each category. The categories are ordered in terms of scale position, and the respondents are required to select one of the limited number of categories that best describe the product, brand, company, or product attribute being rated. Itemized rating scales are widely used in marketing research. We have seen that in marketing research when you are knowing about the behavior about the consumers, or floating the product to the consumers. For there there's a great use of this thing. So itemized rating scale example is that you have certain heads called sound quality, physical size, brand name, durability. You can have certain heads at the parameters, rather we can say not important, somewhat important, fairly important, extremely important. So you can very easily on the basis of this attributes, important attributes, to check the appropriate box. So this is the model, and itemized rating is further divided into 3 parts: Likert scale, semantic differential scales, and stepper scale. So we are going to take these 3 important rating scales which are quite omnipresent and frequently used on one-to-one basis with the help of certain examples. This is the Likert scale which has been originated in the name after its developer, René Likert. The Likert scale is a widely used rating scale that requires the respondents to indicate a degree of agreement or disagreement with each of a series of statements about the stimulus objects. Typically, each scale item has 5 response categories ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. A Likert scale for evaluating attitude towards Sears in the context of the department store project. And what we have observed that it is a psychometric scale commonly involved in research that employs questionnaire. So when you are in the process of making a questionnaire, or you have floated the questionnaire to the respondents, now and these are considered to be the close-ended questions. So what we have observed that when you are having a Likert scale, very easily they can just answer to that. So it is the most widely used approach to scaling response in survey research. Likert scales are non-comparative scaling techniques and are one-dimensional in nature. We have already talked about that how the comparative scales are two-dimensional in nature, whereas Likert scales are one-dimensional in nature. When responding to a Likert questionnaires item, respondents specify their level of agreement or disagreement on a symmetric agree-disagree scale for a series of statements. Thus, the range captures the intensity of their feelings for a given item, while the results of analysis of multiple items reveals a pattern that has scaled properties of the kind Likert identifies. So Likert is extremely popular. We have seen that how much popularity it is, that it is giving you the response alternatives: strongly agree, disagree, uncertain, disagree. And so generally use either a 5-point scale or 7-point scale. So this is the model which is there, and there are certain disadvantages also. Likert scale is it takes longer time to complete than other itemized rating scale because respondents have to read each statement. So it is easy to construct, administer and use. Respondents readily understand how to use the scale, making it suitable for the mail, telephone or personal interview. The major disadvantages of Likert scale is that it takes longer to complete than other itemized scale. So now the second one is semantic differential scale. So if you talk about the semantic differential scale, this semantic differential is a type of a rating scale designed to measure the connotative meaning of objects, events and concepts. The connotation are used to derive the attitude towards the given object, event or concept. And if you talk about the semantic differential scale is a survey or questionnaire rating scale that asks people to rate a product, company, brand or any entity within the frames of a multiple rating options. So what we have observed that semantic differential scale works on multiple point rating options. So these survey answering options are grammatically or an opposite adjectives at each end. So there is a 7-point rating scale on the lines of Likert scale. We also have a 7-point rating scales with endpoints associated with bipolar labels, such as good and bad, complex and simple, that have semantic meaning. It can be used to find whether a respondent has a positive or negative attitude towards an object. It has been widely used in comparing brands, products and company images. It has also been used to develop advertising and promotion strategies and in a new product development strategy. This we have observed. And if you see this particular image, I think the best express your impression of how that features apply to instructor and his or her teaching style and knowledge. Good, bad, strong, weak, motivated, aimless, fast, slow, difficult, easy. So semantic differential scale, will work on certain model that this could be the way. And a rating scale is in which bipolar adjectives are placed at both ends of the scale and response options are expressed as a semantic space. So like for example, please rate car model A on each of the following dimensions: durable and not durable. So low fuel consumption and high fuel consumption. So you have got, if you see this particular image, you will find out that if you have put the cross in between, I think you are a little bit moderate, and if you high fuel consumption, you can go extreme towards the high fuel consumption. So the scale has properties of an interval scale. Sometimes descriptive phrases are used instead of bipolar adjectives, especially when it is difficult to get adjectives that are exact opposites. It is often used to construct an image profile. Now the third one is Staple scale. The Staple scale, named after its developer, Jan Staple, is a unipolar rating scale with 10 categories numbered from -5 to +5 without a neutral point 0. I think we have to understand this what is neutral point 0. Neutral point 0 we have seen in Q-sort as far as the comparative scale technique is concerned, that there was a 0, then -1, then -2, -3, -4 and -5, whereas +1, +2, +3, +4 and +5. So this is without 0. The scale is usually presented vertically. Respondents are asked to indicate how accurately or inaccurately each item describes the object by selecting an appropriate numerical response category. The higher the number, the more accurately the term describes the object. In this example, Sears is evaluated as not having high quality and having somewhat poor services. So the Staple scale was originally developed to measure the direction and intensity of an attitude simultaneously. Modern version of Staple scale places a single adjective as a substitute for the semantic differentials when it is difficult to create pairs of bipolar adjectives. So the modified Staple scale places a single adjective in the center of even number of numerical values. And if you see the example, I think we have talked about that stepple scale moves in a vertical manner. So if you see the seers, +5, +4, +3, +2, +1, high quality, then -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Data obtained by using a stepple scale can be analyzed in the same way as the semantic differential data. And there are some more examples, like the respondent will be asked to rate the jobs using stepple scales like +3, +2, +1, challenging, -3, -2, -1. So +3, +2, +1 suits my scale, -3, -2, -1, again satisfactory. So the following question concerns your rating of several. So this is another example by which you know that things are going to be done. So anyway, what we observe that this scaling technique is very important as far as the observations which we get from the respondents and how you're going to accumulate that. We start with if we talk about the particular chapter, starts with the measurement. We see how important the measurement is because it is going to give you the units, and so that that measurement can be done in particular units. If your base unit is kilometers or the inches or in meters, you can have the things would be evaluated in that way. So after measuring, the scaling follows. The scaling technique is work on the scales and starts with the primary scales, ordinal, nominal, or rank. But after certain time, you observe that these scaling techniques are further bifurcated into comparative and non-comparative. In comparative, we have 4 ways by which we can calculate, whereas this non-comparative is itemized and continuous, whereas itemized is again bifurcated into Likert scale, then stepple scales, and then semantic model is there. So, but again we have to see how we are going to do the scaling and what best results can come up, because the respondent's observation is going to be evaluated or calculated with the help of this scaling techniques only, and that is the reason this scaling technique is quite meticulous and quite methodical. So if you are quite methodical, you can do the things in a very faster mode, because once the data comes, the respondent reciprocates. It's really cumbersome for the researchers to accumulate the data, and the biggest challenge come up when you are going to interpret the data. So data collection is altogether different ball game. Data interpretation is altogether different ball game. So good part is that how you are going to accumulate the data, how you are going to do the data. So anyway, I think we can wind up this particular session, and with that we have wind up this particular block. This block 1, and this block block 1 consists of 5 chapters, and in that, and we have somewhere around 10 to 12 lectures in this particular five chapters. Now we are moving to a next block, and this next block is quite different from the first block, because the first blocks build the concepts, second blocks talks about how you're going to implement, and third blocks talks about how you're going to execute, and finally at the end you will find out the fifth block, which talks about how you're going to make the report and come to the final conclusion. So it's a request to our learners that they can recapitulate themselves, they can revisit our the preceding sessions, because preceding sessions are the backbone, they are the interrelated things, and they, with the help of these backbones lectures, they can build the concept. And once you are acclimatize yourself with the concept, once you have built the concept very easily, you can do the things in a more systematic manner. Thank you very much. Thank you.